I never dreamed that one day this poor boy who grew up in rural Alabama would have a series of ships named after him. I said to each and every one of you, thank you. Thank you for making the hopes and dreams and aspiration of a people come true. You have built for the future. I said to the crew to go out there and do your best. Be brave, be bold, be courageous.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to General Dynamics NASCO and San Diego. We're pleased that you've joined us today as part of a great tradition of seafaring nations that reaches back to the time of recorded history. The christening of ships becomes great public ceremonies, just like we have here today, to assemble to witness this tremendous tradition. So today, we're set to christen the USNS John Lewis, TAO 205, and I think that's a very special day. So my name is Dennis Dubard, and I'm your MC for this morning. On behalf of the shipbuilders of General Dynamics NASCO, who labor in our shipyard every day, it's my honor to clearly represent them and to welcome you to this ceremony. I'd also like to extend a very special welcome to those who are watching on the live stream. It's great to have you here as well. So before I start the program, I would like to take this opportunity to thank a group of individuals who are responsible for putting this all together. We're calling them the Red Shirts, but it's our christening team led by Michelle Jasso and our facilities and transportation team led by Philip Brandon and Mario Principato. So all the individuals here that have NASCO red shirts, give them a great round of applause. I know they appreciate it and they do a great job. So this is our first ceremony since December of 2019, obviously because of the pandemic. So we're excited to be back in this business. So right now we're going to get the program started. So we are pleased today to have the Color Guard from Naval Base San Diego to open our ceremony. So with the guests, please rise and remain standing for the presentation of colors, our national anthem, and the invocation. Parade the colors.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Retire the colors. Lieutenant Keith Ellison, Chaplain Corps, United States Navy, will now deliver the invocation. Chaplain.
Good morning. Let us pray. God, we come to honor your child, John Robert Lewis, born of sharecroppers and recognized by the United States for the christening of United States naval ship John Lewis. I thank you for the honor bestowed upon this American statesman and civil rights activist as he fought to oppose oppression, Jim Crowism, human hatred, and systemic racism. Your hand permitted him to serve honorably in the U.S. House of Representatives for Georgia's 5th Congressional District for 17 terms. We ask you now to bless his family, friends, and his legacy with your heavenly benediction. Let the record show of his effectiveness as the chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, his courage as one of the Big Six leaders who organized the 1963 March on Washington, his dedication to justice for the roles he played in the civil rights movement to end legalized racial segregation. Let us never forget his patriotic cause to our country to end legalized racial segregation. Let us never forget his patriotic cause for our country as he pursued life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as he led the first march in Selma to Montgomery across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. We're thankful for many today who do not have to endure bloody heads because of his act of bravery that at times caused his head to be bloody. And we now know that historic day as Bloody Sunday. God, we see the wondrous works by your hand to orchestrate an avenue for a poor boy born to sharecroppers outside of Troy, not permitted to attend Troy University, but he made a change for better in this nation by way of protest, action, legislation, and with you as his anchor. Bless now her skipper, crew, NASCO, all the men and women that are gathered here today, our dignitaries, our congressmen and women, and everyone who has had a part in this glorious day. Touch the lives of every single person who walks aboard and protect their families with each mission, and let us never forget the legacy of the Honorable John R. Lewis. In the name above all names, amen.
Will the guests please be seated? Thank you, Chaplain. I really appreciate you being here this morning to kick us off, and I know how this means to you personally, so thank you very much. So a big round of applause for our soloist. That's Petty Officer Melton from Navy Region Southwest. This morning's color guard is from Naval Base San Diego, and it's led by Petty Officer Second Class Torres. Thank you, Petty Officer Torres. And our Navy Band, Showcase of the Southwest, led by Lieutenant Commander Bruce Mansfield. Thank you very much, Navy Region Southwest Band. And I'd like to thank their boss for allowing us to have the band here. Admiral Barnett, thank you for supplying your band. There he is. So before the start of the ceremony, our ship sponsor and matron were presented a bouquet of flowers from our ceremonial flower girl, Miss Gianna Navis. Gianna is the granddaughter of Patrick Shaw from Supply Chain. Gianna, would you please stand? She's right down there. Gianna and her family are here visiting from Dallas, Texas. Now I'd like to introduce some of the distinguished guests we have on the speaker's platform this morning. Starting with my right, we have the President of General Dynamics NASCO, Mr. David Carver. Our ship sponsor, Ms. Alfrey Woodard Spencer. The nephew of the Honorable John Lewis, Mr. Marcus Tyner. And on my left, the principal speaker this morning, the Honorable Nancy Pelosi, Speaker of the House of Representatives. Next is the Honorable James Girt, performing the duties of the Undersecretary of the Navy. Vice Admiral Ross Myers, Commander Fleet Cyber Command and Commander U.S. 10th Fleet. In the second row is Rear Admiral Michael Wetlaufer, Commander Military Sealift Command. Our Matron of Honor, Ms. Flodetta McAfee Stewart, Flo. Now I'm going to totally embarrass her. Today's her birthday. And the person who really has the best job going is Captain Kevin Farron, United States Merchant Marine, future captain of the USNS John Lewis. And Rear Admiral Thomas Anderson, Program Executive Officer Ships. So in the audience this morning, we have a very large delegation from Capitol Hill, and we're very honored to have them with us here today. So I'm going to run through a couple of names here. Many of them who served with John Lewis for years to come. First, I'd like to recognize the committee chairs that are here with us this morning. The Honorable Maxine Waters, Chair of the House Committee on Financial Services. The Honorable Hakeem Jeffries, Chair of the Democratic Caucus. The Honorable Eddie Bernice Johnson is Chair of the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology. The Honorable Gregory Meeks, Chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. The Honorable Mark Takano, Chair of the House Veterans Affairs Committee. The Honorable Joyce Betty, Chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. There's the lady taking all the pictures. The Honorable Thomas Sewell, Terry Sewell, author of the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. And the Honorable Nakima Williams, Representative Lewis's successor. And I couldn't leave this out without thanking our San Diego delegation, the Honorable Scott Peters, the Honorable Juan Vargas, the Honorable Sarah Jacobs, and the Honorable Mike Levin. So we do have some members of the Lewis family here this morning, and I'd ask you to please stand as I call your name. Mrs. Deborah Dixon, she's the sister-in-law of John Lewis, right here in the front row. His niece, Ms. Rosalind Tyner King. The nephews, Mr. Jonathan Dixon and Mr. Anthony Dixon. Great nephew, Regino King. And great niece, Miss Caitlin Dixon. From the city of San Diego, Mayor Todd Gloria. And Council Member Vivian Moreno, District 8. Representing the United States Marine Corps, Lieutenant General Karsten Heckel, Commanding General 1 Marine Expeditionary Force. And from the United States Navy, former Secretary of the Navy, the Honorable Ray Mavis. Vice Admiral Roy Kitchener, Commander Naval Surface Forces. Rear Admiral Stephen Barnett, Commander Navy Region Southwest and San Diego's Navy Mayor. So the Admiral just took command yesterday, but he's certainly no stranger to San Diego. He commanded Navy Base Coronado, or North Island as we call it. Great to see you back, Admiral. Commander Chris Schindler, representing Supervisor Shipbuilding Bath, Detachment San Diego. Mr. Rob Gerstein, representing Support Ships Craft Program Office, PMS 325. This is Mary Ann McCauley, Society of Ship Sponsors, and she was the sponsor of the USS Vela Gulf CG-72. And from General Dynamics, the Executive Vice President of the Marine Group, Mr. Rob Smith. And the person that's going to keep all the lights on and the screws turning is the Chief Engineer for the USNS John Lewis. That's Chief Engineer David Perkins. So, to all of you, thank you for attending and your ongoing support of the men and women of General Dynamics and NASSCO. So now it's my honor to introduce our first speaker this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President of General Dynamics NASSCO, Mr. David Carver.
Good morning. Thank you, Dennis, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's christening ceremony. Madam Speaker, Secretary Kurtz, distinguished guests of the House of Representatives, Flag and General, officers, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm San Diego welcome. The NASSCO team consists of some of the most experienced shipbuilders in America, and we are justifiably proud of every ship we build. But this one is special because of the ship's namesake and what he represents as an American. The christening today takes on a very special meaning, for it marks the one-year anniversary to the day of John Lewis's passing. I know he's watching over us this morning. His story is one of remarkable grit and a boundless passion for championing the rights of others. The ship's motto, which represents the best quality of the ship, its crew, and its mission, evolved from John Lewis's eulogy given by President Obama when he stated that Lewis was a man of pure joy and unbreakable perseverance. Unbreakable perseverance. This truly captures John Lewis and is a fitting motto for the ship carrying his name. From his youth, John was at the forefront of progressive social and human rights movements that have been instrumental in shaping the future of our nation. His dedication to the civil rights movement began in earnest while he was still a young man, organizing sit-in demonstrations at segregated lunch counters in Nashville, Tennessee. We could spend the entire day talking about Congressman Lewis's accomplishments, but Dennis told me I had 5 minutes. So I'm certain you're going to hear a lot about his accomplishments from the other speakers, making it abundantly clear, as we are all aware, that he has dedicated his life to human rights, securing civil liberties, and building what he calls the beloved community in America. As the future USNS John Lewis sails the world ocean, the unbreakable perseverance that John Lewis the man demonstrated over a lifetime of service to our country will expand for decades to come and will serve our nation and the cause of freedom all of us hold dear. Building this ship, or any other ship for that matter, is never easy. The fact that we are here today underscores the extraordinary effort that many men and women of NASCO perform every day. We are a community of highly trained, highly skilled individuals. From design conception to christening and through delivery, we come together each day with a common purpose: to build and repair the finest ships that sail the high seas. As shipbuilders, the work we do serves a purpose greater than ourselves, and a purpose I know we all take enormous pride in. In the words of John Lewis, when we come together with a sense of mission, we can make the impossible possible. We started construction on this ship in 2019. The ship's journey from contract to christening reaffirms the foundation of NASSCO's past successes and reputation for delivering high-quality, mission-ready ships. While that reputation is built upon a range of strengths, our best strengths are people. The shipbuilders of NASSCO is what truly makes today possible. With us this morning is our sponsor, Ms. Alfre Woodard Spencer. Who has accomplished a lot, as can be seen in the program, but there's one very important one that's not listed. As mentioned last night, she is a certified NASCO welder and wears a gold apple. This was necessary back in May of 2019 when she welded her initials in the ship's keel. She's an accomplished performer of stage and screen, playing a host of diverse characters, including a doctor, detective, judge, and teacher, to name a few. In 2009, President Obama appointed her to the President's Committee of Arts and Humanities, continuing her important work as an influential activist in supporting human rights. We are thrilled that you are here and know that, like Congressman Lewis, you will be an integral part of this ship for decades to come. Hard work and commitment to excellence, those are the principles that John Lewis lived by and inspired all who came to know him. Those are the same principles we seek to achieve when we build ships. On behalf of the 3,600 hard-working employees of General Dynamics NASCO, we are honored to have you as a ship sponsor. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Our next speaker is Admiral Michael Wetlaufer, Commander, Military Sealift Command. Admiral Wetlaufer oversees the readiness and operation of the Combat Logistics Force, which operates over 125 ships around the globe on a daily basis. Please welcome Admiral Wetlaufer.
Thank you, Dennis. Good morning, Madam Speaker, Secretary Kurtz, Admiral Myers, and of course, Alfre, who we got to know a little bit last night as the ship's sponsor. And of course, I'll take advantage of the previous introduction. So it's great to see you all here this morning. Thank you very much for coming. Christening ceremonies allow us to publicly announce a ship has come to life. It is fitting, it is more than fitting, that we are here today with government and industry leaders, friends and family of John Lewis, and our Navy family to celebrate this occasion. As the global maritime environment is increasingly crowded and contested, John Lewis will continue to support our national security strategy in building partnerships with our friends and allies and enable naval forces to rapidly respond to crisis, deter adversaries, and maintain our global presence around the world. USNS John Lewis, with current and future ships that make up our combat logistics force, are absolutely fundamental to that mission, as they provide fuel, parts, and provisions, and mail for naval forces around the globe. But these ships rely upon American mariners, the United States Merchant Marine, to crew and operate them. Together, they are America's strategic advantage. The christening captain, Kevin Farron, and Chief Engineer David Perkins, and the crew of the John Lewis with us today proudly represent the thousands of civil service mariners who do this critical work at sea and the staff of the Military Sealift Command that support them. Our nation is fortunate to have Americans who step forward from all walks of life through the Merchant Marine Academies and unions to serve in the United States Merchant Marine. In peacetime, conflict, or pandemic, merchant mariners answer the call to serve all across the globe. American mariners bravely face threats daily, from weather at sea to pirates and combatants, as they serve their fellow Americans. Civil service mariners will operate this ship with the skill, resolve, and courage displayed by John Lewis. With this ship, our naval service is better positioned to meet the challenges that lie ahead. To the teams at Naval Sea Systems Command and NASSCO, and the engineers, naval architects, and craftsmen and women who had a hand in building this beautiful ship our nation is made stronger through your work, we thank you. Finally, I'd like to thank our ship sponsor, Ms. Alfre Woodard Spencer. Today's ceremony marks the beginning of this special relationship, and I remain very confident that we will be fully engaged with this ship throughout her life. May God bless this ship, all those who built her, all those who will sail on her, all those who will receive goods from her to be sustained in far-off places, and she carries the strength and will of our great nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Admiral. Our next speaker is Vice Admiral Ross Myers. He's a career naval aviator, Air Wing, and Strike Group Commander, and he is currently the Commander, U.S. Fleet Cyber Command and the U.S. 10th Fleet. He assumed that job in 2020. Please welcome Vice Admiral Myers.
Thank you, Dennis. Madam Speaker, honorable congressional representatives, 30 plus strong today, Secretary Mavis, Undersecretary Kurtz, Mr. Carter, Ms. Woodard, Mr. Tyner and the Lewis family, Admiral Kitchener, SWO boss, putting another one in the water, Admiral Wetlaufer, Admiral Anderson, Skipper Farron, distinguished guests. Good morning, and how great it is to be in San Diego with you today. On behalf of our Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Mike Gilday, I am honored to be here to welcome the lead ship of our new class of fleet replenishment oilers, ably and exceptionally built by the artisans at General Dynamics NASSCO. These vessels differ from commissioned warships in that they support, through peaceful means, the achievement of great works in support of our national interests. As a young naval aviator, I recognize that my aircraft, our carrier, our strike group, relied on such vessels to keep us flying, keep us fed, and to bring us what we long for on extended deployments, care packages from home. Our USNS designated non-commissioned ships go into harm's way, unarmed by naval standards and crewed by courageous civilian mariners that believe in greatness of this nation, sailors who at great personal risk put service before self and mission before individual well-being. So I think given the mission of these vessels, the unarmed, non-violent means of executing that mission, that is wholly right to name this new class of vessels after civil rights icons throughout our history. Men and women who fought for our collective dignity and human rights courageously and nonviolently. I'm personally honored and proud to represent the Chief of Naval Operations at this christening of the lead ship in this class on the first anniversary of its namesake's passing, the Honorable John Lewis. I was too young to even be in school in Kansas when Mr. Lewis helped lead the Civil Rights March across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, delivering a message to the American people about the ongoing struggle for freedom. I was just beginning my naval career when Mr. Lewis was elected to Congress, where he continued to serve his country for more than 33 years, the remainder of his life. I am in awe of such a lifetime, of all that he saw, all that he did, to help make us a better nation, a more inclusive, wiser, perfect union. So thank you again on behalf of the CNO for the opportunity to speak today. I will forever cherish the memory of playing a small part in this ceremony, and I have no doubt that the mariners who serve aboard USNS John Lewis will continue to recall his example, and I pray that we all will do likewise. Thank you.
So our next speaker is certainly no stranger to NASCO. He is performing the duties of the Undersecretary of the Navy. In addition to serving as the Deputy and Principal Assistant to the Secretary of the Navy, He also serves as the Chief Operating Officer and the Chief Management Officer for the Department of the Navy. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable James Kurtz.
Wow, what an amazing day for our Navy and our nation. It is so good to be here with all of you and to celebrate the remarkable namesake and this new ship we are putting into the fleet here. To the family, thank you for blessing us with your presence. Both those here and those out there virtually. We can feel it. You can feel it on the stage here. You know, we talk about the motto of unbreakable perseverance. And certainly you'll hear some more about a person's life dedicated to that in ways that I can't even imagine. But it also represents everything here, the unbreakable perseverance of the shipbuilders. I've said this previously, for all of our shipyards, this one included, during COVID, we never shut down for a single day. Not in our public shipyards, not in our private shipyards. And we rightly recognize those in uniform or those previously in uniform as serving. But there's patriots sitting here. You can see them in their faces. And I just want to publicly thank their unbreakable perseverance for sticking with it, not letting the challenges of COVID slow us down, and allowing us to be here today because of all your work. Thank you very much. We also speak of the unbreakable perseverance of our merchant mariners. My grandfather served on an oiler just like this in World War II, refueling submarines in the Western Pacific. The sacrifices they have made throughout our history, what they have enabled in our nation is unbelievable. And this ship and those who will serve on it will continue that unbreakable perseverance of always ensuring that our ships all around the world have the supplies they need, they can be replenished they need, and they can carry out the duties that we're going to ask them. Just like our Navy right now, over 100 ships right now deployed around the world. Unbreakable perseverance. They're ensuring that the ideals of Mr. Lewis, that the ideals of this nation can be carried out across the globe so that we can continue to ensure the freedom of maneuver and all those things that we hold dear can continue across the globe. In tough times, in trying times, in COVID, in conflict, in competition. And so as you sit here today and you think about this unbreaking perseverance, it's an opportunity, I think, for all of us to rededicate ourselves. Speaker, we talked earlier, I do a lot of these ceremonies. It's a tremendous honor for me. And we have great support from Congress. We have never had 30 or more Congress members at any ceremony. And so for all of you who have come here, for all of you to support our Navy, thank you very much. Your unbreakable perseverance matters a lot. I'd also like to recognize Secretary Mavis for two things. He's done a lot of things in his remarkable career, but he's done two really remarkable things in an unbreakable set of perseverance. One was choosing the name for this not only ship, but class of ships, and then also for choosing such an awesome sponsor, both of which are expert choices about what it really means, what this ship will mean to the fleet. Now, as a former person who is in charge of all the shipbuilding, we took a lot of folks on the ship yesterday. They saw a lot of interesting capabilities, but they didn't see the secret weapon that we placed on this ship. And we always place a secret weapon on every ship. And that secret weapon is our sponsor. She is going to be the one that will carry the spirit forward. She was the one that will give the crew the resolve, the commitment. She will be the one that ensures we are in a cycle of unbreakable perseverance as we all carry on to bring forth those ideas, make the hard choices, dedicate ourselves to all that we think is right for our nation in the name of the namesake, John Lewis. So with that, I would like to thank you again on behalf of the Secretary of the Navy for all being here. It is great to all be here in a ceremony together again, and one certainly fitting for such a man, such a hero of America. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary Kurtz. And now speaking on behalf of the Lewis family is a nephew of John Lewis, Mr. Marcus Tyner. Marcus.
Thank you. On behalf of my beloved uncle and the entire Lewis family, we are humbled and grateful for the christening of the USNS John Lewis. We all agree that what is most important at this critical time, and what will please my uncle most, is the passing of the John Lewis Voting Rights Bill. I will actually close with one of his quotes. When you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you have to speak up. You have to say something. You have to do something. John Lewis, thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Well done. Our principal speaker this morning is the Honorable Nancy Pelosi. She's the 52nd Speaker of the House of Representatives. Speaker Pelosi has served in Congress proudly representing the city of San Francisco for over 30 years. She made history when the Democratic caucus first elected her woman speaker in the House in 2006. Speaker Pelosi again made history in January of 2019 when she regained her position second in line to the presidency, the first to do so in 60 years. She has led the House Democrats for over 16 years, and it's truly my distinct honor to introduce the Honorable Nancy Pelosi.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Officially, as House Speaker, it is my privilege to bring greetings from the Congress of the United States, where our colleague John Lewis served for over 33 years. Personally, it is my honor to honor our dear friend. And I know in saying that, I speak for all of my colleagues who are here. With your permission, I'd like them all to stand so you can see them all at once. And earlier, Dennis acknowledged many of them, but I do want to again acknowledge some who have made it bipartisan, who have made it such a large number. Representative from Georgia, Mr. Carter. Now, stand up as I do this so people can see you. Okay. Dan Kildee. Okay. Mark Vesey. Brenda Lawrence. Nanette Barragan. Hank Johnson. Anthony Brown, Mr. Carvajal of California, Mr. Garamendi of California, Congresswoman Jackie Spear of California. I think the rest were introduced. I do want to acknowledge, again, Akima Williams, who serves in the position that John Lewis served in for so long. And as Dennis acknowledged, that Terry Sewell is carrying the legislation that was mentioned. Thank you, Terry Sewell. And while I take credit for a lot that my members do, the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, Joyce Beatty, organized this trip. Thank you, Joyce Beatty. And of course, all of our chairs and the chair of our caucus as well. Mr. Mayor, Madam Councilwoman, thank you for the hospitality of San Diego as we are all here, and the hospitality to our men and women in uniform on the ongoing. Thank you to the mayor and the councilwoman for that. Okay. Thank you to all who have made this tribute possible. And I particularly want to join the others in acknowledging Ray Mabus, Secretary Ray Mabus. Ray Mabus, who knew that John's life was worthy of recognition, not just of a ship, but an entire class of ships. We're honored also that General Kurtz is here with us as well. I'll come back to Ray in a bit. It's an honor to be with the members of our military represented by Vice Admiral Ross Myers, Rear Admiral Thomas Anderson, and let us extend congratulations to the captain of the ship, Captain Kevin Farron. Thank you, Captain Farron. Okay, Rear Admiral Michael Wetlaufer, thank you. 105 ships? A little more, but 150 ships? Wow. Thank you. We're all in your debt. Thank you so much. And again, all who serve our country in uniform, thank you for the inspiration you are for us in Congress to build a future worthy of your sacrifice. We're grateful to David Carver, to Dennis Dubart, and NASSCO, and the men and women of labor who built this ship, and with great skill and great patriotism. Let us thank our workers. Now, I know Ray Mabus was great in naming this ship, but I did not know that he designated the sponsor of the ship. And John Lewis, I'm sure, had a role in that. We are so inspired by you. What we call you, Madam Sponsor of the Ship. I mean, really, she is, Alfie Woodard Spencer, somebody so very, very special. And the matron of honor, happy birthday to you. Flodetta, Flo, Maccabee, Stewart, and the flower girl, Jana. Where's Jana? There she is, precious Jana again. Again, this is a ritual, and we have to recognize all that goes into it, intellectually, personally, and in a constructive way in every way. All of us are honored to be with the family. John would have liked that speech, not just because of its brevity. He was into that for the rest of us. But wasn't that remarkable? So we thank Deborah, Marcus, Rosalind, Jonathan, Anthony, Master, Caitlin, and again, a member of John's family officially in every way, Michael Collins. Michael. Thank you, Michael, for making everything so possible for John. Okay, it is fitting that we honor John Lewis with this formidable ship because John Lewis was a warrior. One of the mottos of the Navy is Semper Fortis, always courageous. And John Lewis was indeed always courageous. How perfect it is that the motto of this ship, the ship bearing his names, is unremarkable perseverance. Unremarkable perseverance. For this ship will be a beacon to the world, reminding all who see it of the persistence and courage of John Lewis. And John Lewis and the finest navies and merchant marines in the history of the world that this ship is a part of. Let's hear it for our navies and the Navy and the merchant marine. I think it's really important to note that this is something fresh and new. Undersecretary Mabus's leadership, other warriors for freedom were similarly honored. Chief Justice Earl Warren, Attorney General Robert Kennedy, the suffragist Lucy Stone, abolitionist Sojourner Truth. How about that? LGBTQ pioneer Harvey Milk and labor leader Cesar Chavez. So, John always demonstrated courage with his presence. Be there, John would say. His presence as the first of the Freedom Riders and the head of SNCC. His presence as the youngest speaker on the March on Washington, and as his presence as a hero on the march from Selma to Montgomery. And his presence as the conscience of the Congress, where he served for 3 decades. He and I were in the same class, so that means we came in the same class of Congress. So we both served together for over 30 years, so I'm not sure I can get through this to the end of this speech because we all have so many memories of John. John's great courage made him revered in the Congress. In the halls of the Capitol, he was fearless in the pursuit of a more perfect union, whether voting rights or writing to defend voting rights, ending LGBTQ discrimination, stopping gun violence, epidemic, everything you can name. My colleagues and I will never forget his presence as he led a sit-in on the floor of the House to end gun violence. Well, it was thought that he would be arrested for that, and everybody was lining up to be arrested with John Lewis. not only then, but other times. John had the presence not only to lead the civil rights movement, but also help lead all Americans with a greater understanding of the movement. He always wanted us to see the struggle through his eyes. That is why, for years, he took members of Congress from across America to Selma. On the 50th anniversary, the presence of John Lewis and President Barack Obama linking arms while retracing John's steps over the Edmund Pettus Bridge was an iconic picture of progress. Barack Obama would not have been in that capacity without the sacrifice, courage, and perseverance and the presence of John Lewis. As we celebrate a ship named for John, I want to recall his presence on a trip we took to Ghana under the leadership of the Congressional Black Caucus, Madam Bailey. We went there to mark 400 years since the first enslaved Africans were sent by ships. So we're talking about ships here, right? By ships to America. I wish you could have seen the welcome John received. And I wish you could have seen his emotion at the door of no return, where enslaved people were sent through to board the ships that would take them to be enslaved in America. And John taught us that that was as much a part of American history as the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Many of you were on that trip to Ghana with John, so you know how emotional that was for us. That was July of 2 years ago, 1 year before, a short time before we realized the challenge that he was facing. While John was a man of great courage and a fighter, he was always about nonviolence. He subscribed to the Gandhi theory of nonviolence, and in Gandhi's language, in Sanskrit, the word for the word satyagraha had two meanings: nonviolence and insistence on the truth. Nonviolence and insistence on the truth. John Lewis always insisted on the truth. As was mentioned at that lunch counter in Nashville, where he began his civil rights journey, his presence in Nashville. Today, as we gather here, on the day that John left us, a year after John passed away, today in Nashville, a street is being named in John Lewis's honor. That was a first step for John in the civil rights movement. On his last day in Washington, just before he left, Michael, you were with him, just before he left to return to Atlanta, just about a few days ago, a couple weeks ago last year, his last day, John Lewis went to Black Lives Matter Plaza to see the movement go into the future. It was such a beautiful, beautiful smile on his face to see his work going into the future with Black Lives Matter, and they will have a vigil in his honor tonight in Washington. Last July, John returned to the Capitol for the final time. He came, having left us, but he came to lie in state in the Hall of Heroes. And that lying in state was profound because he lay in state on the same catafalque that was built for another hero, his hero, President Abraham Lincoln. When I came here, people asked me about this flag, this pin I have. It's a flag. And this flag is something I brought to John on 4th of July of last year when I went to see him for the last time in Atlanta. I brought him this flag pin. On the pin it says, "One country, one destiny." One country, one destiny. Those words were embroidered in Abraham Lincoln's coat. that he had on that fateful night. He probably wore the coat every day, but that was in his coat, and it is on his pin, and it is in John Lewis's heart. One country, one destiny. So, as we know John, he always met the challenge to be present. As was said, when you see something that is not right, not fair, not just, you must speak up. Find a way. That's presence. Find a way. Get in good trouble. Right? Let's say it all together. Get in good trouble. In that spirit, let us heed John's guidance to strive for a more perfect union. May God bless U.S. Navy ship John Lewis, and may it always find fair winds and following seas. May God bless the men and women of the Merchant Marine who will serve aboard it. God truly blessed America with the life, legacy, and leadership of John Lewis. May God continue to bless America. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much. So last night, many of you in the audience got a chance to hear some words from our sponsor. And so now this morning, we get another opportunity to hear from her. Please welcome Ms. Alfre Woodard Spencer, the sponsor for the USNS John Lewis.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, glory, everybody. I'm probably going to make you guys crazy, but because I am going to shout, because there is so much to shout about. First of all, John Lewis, presente. John Lewis, presente. John Lewis. Presente. Oh, come on. John Lewis. Presente. He lives in the unalterable truths he spoke to power. He lives in all the spaces where people reach out their hands to welcome, to protect, to feed, to vote, to encourage. In all those places where people say, amen. John Lewis lives in all the spaces where people reach out their hands to pull others up to the lives that they deserve. And now he lives in the name and the embodiment of this mighty sailing vessel and its mission of fortifying and sustaining those who have committed themselves to the service of our nation. This insistent, courageous, and peaceful warrior was not only the conscience of the Congress, he was the true action hero of our times. He never hesitated to put his body on the line for justice. From the moment he set out as a teenager, as Dr. King dubbed him, the boy from Troy, onward across his purpose-filled walk among us, he became a man for all seasons. In his recognition of justice as a God principle and as a human right. He stood up, he sat in, he spoke out, and he got into more than his share of very good trouble. John did it out of a fidelity to truth and out of his unqualified respect and pure love for the people. I'm grateful to you, Secretary Mabus, for recognizing the fact that John Lewis was, in all caps, an American hero. I thank you for acknowledging John Lewis stood for his country. He took blows for his country. He walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge for his country to deliver and keep delivering justice for all the people of his country. His challenge to us, his fellow Americans, was either these are our ideals or they are not. And if they are, we must live by them. John couldn't be here today in the way in which we are accustomed It's been a year since he set sail in purer waters. We miss him on this platform, but we will never be without him. Naming the first of the John Lewis class of fleet replenishment oilers couldn't be a more fitting partnering. Across his anointed life, John Lewis brought the sustenance of rightful purpose to a country hungering for justice. May his legacy to do the right thing continually refine our aims as a people with the launch of this magnificent ship. Like the man himself, the presence of the USNS John Lewis, may it inspire justice as a mission, peace as a goal, and compassion as a way of moving. This lady sails in a legacy as deep as the waters she traverses. Captain Farron, may John's playful, joyful spirit and mischievous humor lift your days and the days of all of those who will sail under her mast and who will arrive to our Navy folk as evidence of their nation's regard for them and as a familiar touch of home. Your great ship of supply set sail, creating community, fostering fellowship of which John Lewis heartily approved. May it inspire the thoughts and fuel the actions of those of us left on land. I stopped using the term honored a while ago. After six decades, it had started to feel reflexive, and I needed it to regain its weight, and I am so glad I did, because today, from the depth of my being, I tell you, I am honored. I am fortunate. I bow down in this moment that Secretary Mabus has placed us by commissioning this essential vessel. And I praise the wisdom, the ingenuity, and the engineering you shipbuilders have brought to this and to the rest of the fleet. I lift up all those hands on deck who will serve her throughout her commission. I am beyond elated to have my name in association with the good John Lewis, with the Honorable John Lewis, and I am joyously remembering our last time together here in our fast-track welding lessons as we put the names our steady fathers gave us at the balancing point of this ship. I am eternally grateful to have lived in the time of John Robert Lewis. Thank you.
Captain Farron, I think the ship is in good hands with this sponsor going forward. Thank you very much. So now there's one other thing she has to do, and that is she has to bring this ship to life, and that's breaking the bottle of champagne on the hull. So now it's time for our president, Dave Carver, our sponsor, Alfrey. Please proceed to the striker platform. You have a little bit of work to do. Let's hear from the Navy band. I think they're preparing to get wet. They're shaking the bottle. Ms. Woodward, would you please christen the ship?
For the United States of America, I christen thee John Lewis. May God bless this ship and all who sail in her.
She did a great job. I think the ship is ready to set sail. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being here today, and this concludes our ceremony. On behalf of the men and women of General Dynamics, thank you for attending this christening ceremony. A special thanks again to all of our NASCO team. We wish all of you fair winds and following seas. Thank you very much.